Jensen Huang walked onto the Carnegie Mellon commencement stage and told the graduates they were starting their careers at exactly the right moment. He said the AI revolution had crossed from possibility into industry. That sounded inspirational. But the part he did not say out loud is more important. Nvidia has not been waiting for the AI industrial era to arrive. It has been laying the track underneath it. And over the last month, that became much harder to ignore. Because these are not random announcements. They look like pieces of the same machine. Software, servers, networking, power, enterprise agents, manufacturing, cloud gaming, autonomous cars, edge devices. Nvidia is moving into all of it, and that is the real story. The company most people still think of as a chipmaker is starting to look like something much bigger, the operating system for the AI economy. Start with the software layer. A project called Hermes Agent from Ineffable Intelligence hit 140,000 GitHub stars. That is not a lab experiment. That is a developer movement. It matters because Hermes is built around self-improving AI agents, systems that do not just answer a question, but act, adjust, and improve their own workflow. And it runs on Nvidia's world, RTX PCs and DGX Spark. That is the first clue. The future Nvidia is building is not just giant data centers somewhere far away. It is a world where AI agents run everywhere, on developer machines, in enterprise systems, on factory floors, inside devices, and across infrastructure. Then Huang showed up beside SAP's CEO at the SAP Sapphire conference to announce enterprise-grade AI agents with governance built in from the start. That word matters, governance. Because it is one thing to have a chatbot summarize an email, it is another thing to trust autonomous agents inside corporate finance, supply chains, logistics, procurement, and customer operations. That is the line Nvidia and its partners are trying to cross. The pitch is no longer, AI can help your workers. The pitch is, AI can start running the business. And that pitch is landing. Now look underneath the software because this is where the scale gets hard to process. Nvidia and IREN are moving toward a 5 gigawatt AI build-out. 5 gigawatts. That is not a product launch. That is an energy story. Enough electricity to power a small country, pointed at compute. And this is why Huang keeps using the phrase, token factories. Not data centers, factories. The old internet stored information. These new facilities manufacture intelligence. Every rack, every GPU, every networking cable, every cooling system, every power contract is part of an industrial process where electricity goes in and tokens come out. That changes how you should think about Nvidia. A chip company sells components. A platform company controls standards. But an industrial operating system controls how the work gets done. And Nvidia is trying to own that layer. Corning signed on as a US manufacturing partner for optical connectivity. Fiber, transceivers, and the physical pathways that move data through these giant AI systems. That sounds boring until you realize it is the bottleneck. The limit in AI is not just the chip. It is the entire chain around the chip. Power, cooling, glass, fiber, networking, scheduling, supply, security. Nvidia is not only selling the engine, it is building the roads, the fuel system, the traffic rules, and the factory floor around it. Spectrum-X Ethernet also got upgraded with multi-rail congestion control, positioning it as the backbone for connecting racks of next-generation Rubin GPUs. If AI is becoming an industry, then the company that controls the rails matters just as much as the company that builds the trains. And then there is the edge. Jetson Orin NX modules are showing up in industrial panel PCs on factory floors. That means Nvidia's architecture is moving closer to machines, sensors, workers, cameras, robots, and physical decisions. Nvidia is pushing into open 6G networks. It teased a Windows PC system on chip, putting Nvidia directly into consumer hardware competition with Qualcomm, Intel, and AMD. And Ouster wired its Rev 8 color LiDAR into Nvidia's Drive Hyperion platform, pushing autonomous perception into ordinary streets. This is the part that is easy to miss. It all sounds like separate news. Factory computers, telecom deals, PC chips, LiDAR, cloud gaming, enterprise agents. But to Nvidia, those are not separate worlds. They are endpoints. The same stack that renders virtual worlds for gamers can run simulations for engineers, support robotics, and become the nervous system for factories, vehicles, networks, and supply chains. That is why the partnerships are coming in so fast. ServiceNow, Adobe, WPP, Google Cloud, Red Hat, Lenovo, HPE, Cisco, Palantir, Dell. They are all routing parts of their AI strategies through Nvidia's architecture. And this is not lock-in in the old software contract sense. It is gravitational. The platform is where the work gets done, so that is where everyone goes. But here is where the story gets less clean. When one company becomes this central to the AI economy, the risks get bigger too. There is a geopolitical undercurrent running through all of it. Huang traveled to China with President Trump on a trade trip, even as U.S. export controls have crushed Nvidia's direct China sales revenue. And still there are reports of smuggled H100s. Secondary market GPU prices are climbing like collectibles. Older chips are appreciating because the hunger for compute is outrunning legal supply. That is not normal demand. That is scarcity. And scarcity creates strange behavior. If AI compute becomes the fuel of the next economy, then whoever controls access to it gains power far beyond quarterly earnings. That is why Nvidia's position matters so much. It is no longer only about whether AMD can build a faster chip, whether Chinese AI companies can catch up, or whether Intel can claw its way back into the conversation. Those things matter, but they may not be enough. Competitors can copy performance. They can cut prices. They can build accelerators. What is much harder to copy is the full architecture, the software layer, the networking layer, the developer ecosystem, the enterprise partnerships, the workload management, the rack design, the supply chain, and the trust large companies are already building around it. That is why Nvidia's acquisition of SkedMD matters. SkedMD is behind Slurm, the workload manager used across much of high-performance computing. To most people, that sounds like inside baseball, but to the HPC community, it raised a real concern: lock-in. Because if Nvidia touches the chips, the networking, the systems, the software, and the scheduler, then the question becomes obvious. Where does Nvidia end? The new Vera Rubin platform shows where this is headed. It is architected around inference as the primary workload, not training. That is a huge shift. Training is how you build the model. Inference is where the model actually does the work. That means Nvidia is preparing for a world where the big money is not just in creating AI, but in running AI constantly, everywhere, for everyone. And the stock market sees it. Nvidia crossing $5.4 trillion in valuation is not just investors pricing this quarter's revenue. They are pricing the possibility that every new gigawatt of AI infrastructure drags demand behind it. Energy, networking, security, optics, cooling, software, and physical construction. The quieter moves point the same direction. Suzanne Nora Johnson joining the board signals that governance is becoming part of the infrastructure story. When AI systems start making operational decisions, someone in the boardroom has to answer for them. Nematron 3 Nano Omni combines vision, audio, and language in one smaller, edge-capable system. OpenAI launched GPT 5.5 running on Nvidia hardware. The most visible AI brand in the world, on Nvidia's invisible backbone. That is the whole point. Nvidia is not just the company behind the chip anymore. It is the company underneath the companies. So when Huang tells graduates the AI industrial era is the best time to start a career, he is not just giving a commencement speech. He is describing a world Nvidia is actively building. A world where every shipment routed, every kilowatt dispatched, every factory optimized, and every model served carries an intelligence cost. And increasingly, that cost flows through Nvidia. That is why this story matters. Not because Nvidia made another fast chip. Faster chips are only one piece of the machine now. The bigger question is whether Nvidia is becoming the platform layer for the next economy. And if that happens, competitors will not just have to beat a GPU. They will have to beat an architecture that already runs from light pulses to ledgers, from game streams to enterprise agents, from data centers to factory floors. That is not a vision anymore. It is contracts. It is GitHub stars. It is power deals. It is supply chains. And it is being written, quietly, every day, in gigawatts. Stay sharp. Jane Sterling, Sterling Intelligence.